Greetings, ladies and managers, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Cold Space, written by MarlynnOfMany. A painful crash, but not the worst I'd been through, and just light turbulence for the other passengers, who had exoskeletons that would make a boulder jealous, since the ship makers had them in mind rather than the stray human female looking for a cheap flight. I braced myself in a tight corner when we started going down. I unfolded my limbs with a wince and found most of the lights in the passageway dimmed. Anxious keening drifting down the hall at just the right tone to make my eardrums itch. The same sound an alien crew member had made when he'd gotten caught in a hydronic lift last week. I grimaced and started towards it. Here's hoping that's not as bad as it sounds. I entered an open door to private quarters, where two of the hard-skinned passengers were scraping ice off a table and making a symphony of whines that sounded like anxious hoverbikes. What happened? I asked. The small one, with markings of a juvenile male, whirled his back plates rattling in distress. "Precious creature, cold air!" he exclaimed. "Cold air!" He rattled harder, visibly frustrated with his imperfect owl speak. The tall one spoke up. "Vessel is having a breach of hull," she explained over the armored shoulder. I realized I'd met her before. This was Grandma Mandibles, the matriarch of a small clan. Her all-speak was better. "Micrometeorite. The systems of emergency have sealed the hole, but tube of coolant runs through wall is burst." I joined her at the table and found what looked like a frozen-over hamster cage. The thing inside, ice-covered and immobile, could have been a Thorkian fur piranha, for all I knew. My vent training was strictly Earth-based. All I could say was that its stillness was a bad sign. Junior ignored me while he clawed ice off the latch and pried the cage open. He clamped down on his rattling plates, but I felt the vibration through the floor as he lifted out the limp creature. I watched with growing concern while the alien tried to wake his pet to no avail. "Is it breathing?" I asked, wondering if I was supposed to. "No knowledge." Junior bobbed his head with uncertainty. "Need heat." He looked frantically around the room, finding only weak emergency lights. "Power being gone. What has heat?" I tilted my head. "Can't you just hold him close?" I gestured. "Isn't your body heat enough?" "What?" His pupils spiraled open and shut in confusion as he freed a talon to touch my arm, a talon still covered in ice. "Oh." "Give him to me," I demanded, taking off my glove and unzipping my flight suit. "Hurry." With eyes wide, the alien deposited the bundle of icy fur in my hands. Grandma Mandibles stopped searching when Junior exclaimed at the ice starting to melt. I held the beastie against my neck with all my hands cupped around it, hoping it wasn't the biting sort. Rubbing its fur and brushing the ice off, trying not to shiver as it dripped down my shirt. I spoke the traditional soothing words of my people. "Hey, little guy, you'll be fine. You're gonna wake up for us. Please don't pee on me." After a few moments, I felt a wiggle. I held it up and witnessed a tiny sneeze. The alien uttered a joyful-sounding mishmash that could have been the creature's name. He reached out hesitant talons to stroke its fur, obviously wanting to hold it, but unwilling to remove it from my life-giving warmth. "He's shivering," I said. "That's a good sign. I think he'll be okay." The furball was starting to make a faint rattling sound of its own, which seemed oddly like purring. I was trying to figure out how it rattled without plates when a group of other hardskins arrived. Junior treated them to a dramatic retelling of how the human could bring animals back to life from icy death. I made a few modest interjections to keep the tale grounded in reality, but only a few. I'm not one to say no to some well-earned gratitude. Makes my day every time. My days continued to be made in the lengthy repair that followed. Then the aliens showed their fascination with my exotic ability to create heat by moving. Hard skins popped up left and right, asking me to warm things for them. I didn't mind. It was easy enough to soften someone's energy bar or a block of fix-it putty by sticking it on my shirt for a few minutes. I was glad the heating system was fixed right away, though. Otherwise, I might have ended up doing jumping jacks in a small room for a common good. The hardskins reminded me of lizards that I'd see as a pet, never more than room temperature, but oh so fond of the outside heat sources. The interest in my warm-blooded nature eventually gave way to an invitation to join the crew on a complicated external repairs. I'd proven useful. "Why yes, I do have slender fingers perfect for manipulating wires," I smiled, as I followed the hulking forms of the repair crew towards the airlock. "Now let me show you what kind of climbing monkey my species is descended from." End of story. Story number 2. To Fight by Mr. E. Monkey. Walter closed the book that he had been reading when a dark, cloaked being entered the room. While many beings would be terrified to see such a figure in their home late at night, or shocked to see that they did not enter through the door into their room, but rather through a hole in space-time itself, Walter instead placed his book gently on the end table next to his recliner and gestured to the pair of short glasses and tall bottle of smoky amber-colored liquid, asked the being, "Care for a drink?" "You know that I do not drink." Walter nodded. "True, but it would still be rude not to offer." Picking up the bottle and a single glass, he asked, "You don't mind, do you?" "You may, it matters not." "No, I suppose it doesn't, does it?" He poured a small measure of liquid into his glass, and, lifting it to toast his visitor, he continued, "Still, if there is ever an occasion to appreciate a good stuffed drink, this is probably it, isn't it?" "I suppose, but then you already know that better than most." A small, warm, yet slightly bitter laugh escaped from Walter before he took a sip from the glass. "Yeah, that's true, isn't it? It has been a while, though, hasn't it, old friend?" An almost imperceptible nod from under the cloak. "It has indeed. Longer than I had expected." "Yes, I have to agree with you there." Walter stretched, feeling his back pop several times in rapid succession, wincing slightly as bone ground against bone, with much of the cartilaginous discs having worn away over the years. He rubbed his aching shoulder, feeling the mess of scarring under his shirt. "Is that why you came so late tonight?" "I came when I am meant to. Not sooner, not later." Right. You sure you weren't hoping to catch me asleep?" Walter tilted his head and winked. "No, some people think that they can fight or bargain or cheat me. You know that is not possible." A brief pause hung in the air as Walter weighed his response. "That is true. It raises a question, though, if I may." "You may." "Thanks. So, if you don't come to take someone until it is their time, and we can't cheat you, how was it that I kept seeing you? So many serious cases. You were there, but most of the time you didn't take anyone. Why?" "Humans are different. Complicated. You fight when it is futile. You persist yet sometimes humans quit, give up, when there is no reason. It is as if you cannot survive without a challenge. You are the most alive when you are fighting." Silence reigned over the room. Walter mulled this new information over. "So you were showing up, knowing that seeing you would make me fight even harder, all those times, all over those years?" "Yes. You always fought so hard to deny me, to steal my claims, to keep me from taking them. It was enjoyable." Thinking back over more calls than he cared to remember, applying pressure bandages, performing CPR, Walter frowned. "It wasn't. Not for me." "In the moment, I expect not. Yet you fought still. You savored your victories. I enjoyed watching you work. You fought the hardest of all. When others thought hope was lost, you made me fight. It is an interesting experience. But now it is your time. Come." Somberly, Walter nodded and stood, surprised at how quickly and painlessly he stood. Walter turned around to see himself still sitting in a chair, looking as if he had fallen asleep. "Huh, Isn't that something? He mused. Turning back to his old friend, he grinned a little. I suppose it's still pointless to fight you on this one. It is, but it would be rude not to offer. End of story. There is a new legend on the horizon. Blueberry Cat has taken the T6 Patreon spot. Thank you very much, and I'm sure that I speak for everyone when I say that. I would just like to thank our T5 members, Lord Azrakel, Ambrose Cattell, Quantum Wednesday, Drexoon WRE, Blueberry Cat, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Bushmaster 177, and Leslie 517. Thank you very much.